Hi everyone, I'm making a quick card this afternoon for my boss. His brother passed away and tomorrow will be his first day back to work since all of that happened. So I thought we'd make him a card for him and his wife and his mom. And I wanted to experiment with some new items that I got from blitsy.com. Now their website is posted below. Again, that's blitsy.com. And this week they are featuring, on one of those days, is the melt art. And that's for this melting pot right here. This is the pan that goes inside of it. It's the melting pot project pan. And what this is for the beeswax. You'll see on here the description. It says use with beeswax and other low temperature meltable mediums. So it's a reusable pan, slick melting surface, fits inside the melting pot. So what you do is, technically you would do this before you turn on the melting pot, but mine still has a little bit of UT in it, but that's okay. This just slides right in. There's this little notch in the back of your melting pot here, and then it just clicks right into place. And so, do I have that in there right? Yep, okay. So it clicks right into place there, and that is for the beeswax. So this week I got the two different types. One is the white and one is the natural. Now if you use the natural, it gives your project a very vintage look. And yellowing, it's really great to use with dictionary paper and things like that. Marion Smith has a really neat tutorial on how to make a mixed media collage journal on top of one of those composition notebooks by using natural beeswax. Today I'm going to use the white because this project has a lot of white in it, and even though I'll be distressing it, I'm trying to find scissors. I don't want it to be too yellowy. So let me find my scissors and we'll get on with this project. Okay, so when you get your beeswax, it'll have that metal film on it, and you can see they're just these itty bitty tiny beads of wax. And so those are really neat. And you can use a melting pot or you can use an iron depending on what type of application you're doing. I'm going to do both on this card so you'll get a good feel of how to use beeswax on your projects. We're going to do several different things with the beeswax. So the first thing I'm going to do is just put a bit in here. And the thing is, while you want a project pan, is you don't have to clean this out. You just leave it as it is and then pop it out when you're done and let it cool. So I may go ahead and get myself another project pan, one for natural and one for white. But for now, this is what I have, so that's going there. Let me go ahead and distress the edges of my papers first before we go any further. So first I typed out a sentiment on my computer and cut it out with my Nestabilities die and distressed it with broken china. Now I'm going to use walnut stain and distress the rest of the edges. So now I'm going to peek at my beeswax, and you can see how the white just melts completely clear. Now this is very flammable, so you want to make sure your temperature isn't too hot. Usually about the recommended setting for beeswax is around 150 or so. So I set my melting pot back down to about 140 now that it's completely melted. Now one way you can use this is almost like a Mod Podge. You'll want to use a natural fiber brush. So I just have one of these really cheap brushes that I got from Hobby Lobby or something like that, but super cheap, less than $1. But it is a natural fiber brush. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to collage all of these pieces onto here. I'm not going to put the sentiment on yet because I have some other things I'm going to do with these fabric hearts. But first I'll show you how to use this as like a Mod Podge. So here we go. So you can see that just melts everything together, gives the paper a bit of translucency, and I'm going to put this on a white card so it'll be fine. You won't see anything through it. But that is one thing you want to note. If you're using the wax, note that it will make your paper more of a translucent type, almost like a vellum. So you don't necessarily want to have a dark print cardstock on the back, or that pattern's going to come through really strong. If it's a light color, it's usually alright, but you don't necessarily want it to be darker than your front print, or it's just going to be totally covered up. So that's the effect you get when you use it kind of like a Mod Podge and just glue it all on top of itself. Now if you feel more comfortable, you can go ahead and adhesive strip each one of these down first and then do the waxing, but this is just for a card and I know it's not going to be handled that much, so I felt comfortable with it being this way. So that's the beginning, one method of using the wax. Next we'll use wax on the fabrics. Okay, so here you'll see I have 3 hearts that are cut out of muslin with my Nestabilities heart dies. I have a little bit of wax on these because there's some on my craft sheet, but that's okay because I'm actually making like a batik design out of these with wax. So we're going to use a template here in a minute, and we're going to wax certain portions of it, and then we're going to spray it to dye the fabric. So again, this is just white muslin from Joann's. It's about $1.50 a yard if you get it on sale or use a coupon. And I just ironed it flat with this little craft iron I got at Walmart a couple years ago, and it makes them nice and flat. On here, I'm going to be using one of the Dilutions masks. You can either cut one out yourself using your Cricut, or you can buy a pre-made one like the one I have here. So on these hearts, what I'm going to do is put down the template and wax design some of these into here, and then we'll dye the rest of the fabric with some inks. So now that you have your wax pieces on your hearts, we're going to color each heart. So all I did was I took a mini mister like this. This one has 1 dropper full of Fire Brick Distress ink in it, and then I filled up the rest of the container with water and shook it up real good. Now you could use your Lindy's Stamp Gang for this, but I didn't want these to be shimmery. I want these to have more of a matte finish, so I just used Distress ink instead of all those other colors. You want to have a paper towel handy because you don't want to mix your colors. Next thing you want to get is just some packaging paper, something that can absorb the wax easily. So I just tear off pieces of this. Okay. And so I lay it on here just enough to where I can sandwich my heart inside of here, like so. Then I'll take my little iron and iron out my heart and iron out this wax. You'll start seeing the wax come onto the paper. And that is very easily and nicely and that quick removed all the wax from that one heart. Okay, so now I've glued down the hearts onto there, as well as the sentiment that I'm going to use that I had cut out with my nestabilities. Now what I'm going to do is create some three-dimensional flowers right here in this corner where there's already some flowers on the base of the card. So what I'm going to do is use the remainder of that red paper. It's with the same paper line, and so it's the exact same color as these roses here. What I'm going to do with these is use my Versamark and use those Heartfelt creations. Again, that's heartfeltcreations.us. You can find them, I think, on Scrap Mart as well. But this is the Botanical Floral 2 pre-cut set. So this goes with the Donna Salazar Spellbinders Rose Creations die. With your nestabilities. This is the smaller set. There's the large set and the small set. So I'm going to be using the two smallest flowers as well as the smallest leaf out of this set. Okay, so here is the card all finished now. So it has the wax background and then the Batik dyed hearts on there, and then I made these three-dimensional flowers on here. That I made with the Heartfelt Creations and the Spellbinders, the Rose Creations die, and so those turned out really cute. I'll show a separate demonstration because I don't feel like a real expert on those yet. This was experiment number 1, and it turned out really cute. So I'll try to post some pictures that show the dimension a little better, but that's the completed card. The main purpose of this video was to show how to use the beeswax. Again, you can get that beeswax on blitsy.com this week. I don't know how much longer it's in effect for, because I bought those last week, so you may have to look for them elsewhere. But really, you can use any beeswax. You don't have to use the one by Melt Art, but that's just the one I happen to use. So thanks for watching.